everyone. Welcome to the weekly recap. It's been a while. We actually have some interesting stuff to talk about. So we have PlayStation did some investment conference.
Numbers
some
and
pretty
stuff
good
like
data,
that.
some pretty good numbers. A lot of interesting info actually came out of that. Detroit and State of Decay, both really big anticipated games launched. We'll do early impressions. We haven't spent a ton of time in them, but some early impressions.
Yeah, things have been pretty busy for both of us, Yeah,
it's been a little crazy. So a couple of topics suggested by viewers also.
Cool.
And then some info about what we have coming up.
Yeah.
So what do we have coming up? We'll put a little bit of it here and we'll rediscuss at the end.
Yeah. So another live show coming up next week, or technically I guess it would be this week at this point in time.
Wednesday,
by the time this video is out there.
Yeah.
Wednesday or Thursday, probably going to switch it to Thursday.
Okay.
And then depending on availability of everyone, it could even go to the very next week after that. Okay. It doesn't really matter, though, which week it drops on because it's a pre-E3 information. Yeah. I'm going to E3, obviously, and like just predictions and hype and stuff like that, basically, type of show. So going to have some special guests, which we'll announce later on in when we get all that shored up. Got that coming. A few other things. Some of the stuff we've been talking about that we've been working on for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Some of that is coming up a little bit further down the line. Mm-hmm. So that'll be announced when it's appropriate for that as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So we got a really interesting question. Shout out to Mario Zacconi, who basically posed the question after probably watching some conversations that I've witnessed on Twitter. So here's the question. Xbox Live, would it make good business sense for Xbox Live to be free? So I guess I'll give a simple answer. No, right? Good business sense.
Yes,
no.
The way he phrased it was a very intelligent way to phrase it. He's asking from a perspective of not just the consumer, because obviously every consumer wants it free. You want anything free.
Of course.
If you can get a AAA game free, you would take that if you could.
And honestly, I think he's kind of responding to that type of
there's just been a lot of talk about that
recently. Been a lot of it should be free from a consumer standpoint. Yeah. And a lot of tweets that are like, Xbox is ripping us off because it's not free and things like that are more emotional and impulsive than business thought processes.
Emotional is definitely the right word. There seems to be an emotional attachment to the argument of free Xbox Live.
There does seem to be.
The interesting thing there is that you don't hear that for literally other service that we pay for.
Nope.
Or any service, it seems like. No one says free Netflix. No one says free PSN. No one says, hey, Nintendo, you haven't even started charging us yet. Can you never charge us?
Right.
That's not, there's no language, there's no talk around that.
Which is really interesting, especially that you just said that PlayStation, nobody's ever said PlayStation should not charge for
should
their
go
network.
Back to being free, because it used to be.
That's interesting.
It was for many years.
Yeah. So from a business standpoint, first of all, Xbox Live is a really big source of revenue for them, and it's a big source of profit. And I feel like people forget that they have to spend that money to make that money. So there's a lot of maintenance cost involved with Xbox Live. So not only, if you cut the cost of Xbox Live, not only are you cutting the profit of Xbox Live, you're also going to cut in to where it's actually literally a loss.
You mentioned the profit. I don't even know that they actually make any true, real profit off of Xbox Live. I think a lot of people would say that they do. I'll try to play both sides for a second here. Okay. So some of the information that had leaked out about Xbox Live in previous years, and this is before they had the user base that they had now on there, that they had made as much as $2.8 billion in just 1 year off of just Xbox Live alone. So that's just people paying the subscription fees, whether they're month to month, every 3 months, 6 a year, or however they're paying for it. So that's a lot of money if you actually take a calculator out, and you can come up with some interesting numbers that could look a little bit further into how many subscribers they might actually have. So that's pretty funny.
Yep.
And that was years ago that we heard those numbers, so we don't know what it is now. So that's a lot of money coming in. It's a big revenue stream, as you said, as we've talked about before.
Definitely.
Huge revenue stream. But are they actually putting that money in the bank? Does a dollar of it go somewhere into something that would be considered profit within the company? I doubt that's actually the case.
Definitely, you're probably right. Definitely most of it is not
being funneled right back into.
It's being funneled right back in. Like, how expensive are services,
keeping everything running,
servers, and all the people that are involved. There's entire teams of people that are just keeping Xbox Live up.
There's untold costs that we can't even break down. We don't have the time to break down. It would take hours.
Yeah.
To do that for a company that operates on the size that Xbox and that Microsoft operates on with a service like that. Same thing for Netflix. You can actually look at their breakdown. They've released it. They've released very good details. When we did the research earlier this year for Netflix, I mean, you can see all that on the internet. You can find it. It's ridiculous, the amount of cost they have. It's no wonder that their debt increases as they grow.
Yeah, Netflix is going the wrong way.
No, they're going the right way, but they have debt, essentially.
They have debt, yeah.
Every company that has any type of streaming anything
so as opposed
is going
to their
recruit
profit going like this, it's not. It's either
profit is not exactly what a lot of people think it is. It's not necessarily putting
people
money
think profit's
in a
revenue.
bank. Yeah, they do. They confuse those two things. They conflate them a lot, but they also think that there's just this bank that Microsoft has where they're just throwing all your Xbox Live money in. It's just sitting there in like stacks of however.
They're just raking it in, and you're just
completely
screwed over. Just completely.
It's not how that works. Over. Well, there was some interesting stuff that came out about some of the things you've mentioned, where there was an online back and forth. By the way, great question, Mario. Thanks again for that. Where I think it was Red Dragon and Jez from Windows
Gordon.
Central kind of had a back and forth where Red was like, doing his usual, let's bash Microsoft this week.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. He should really just start an Xbox podcast because that would...
He would fit right in.
Just be right in line. So he was doing that usual thing that he always does. And again, you mentioned the emotional element of this.
The original tweet was very emotional.
Why Xbox? Like, why not?
Why are we making fun of this particular thing on this particular platform?
How much are we paying for Netflix? Like, I'm paying for Netflix still.
Okay, so
I was supposed to cancel. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't even... Like, I think in Netflix, the shows is the most mediocre type shows that are out there.
Yeah.
They really are. Like, I get about halfway through, and then I don't even complete the show that I'm watching these days. But I'm paying $15 because of the 4K access to it. I'm paying $15 a month. So what is that in a year's time?
It's just like very plain content that they're putting out. And if it's $15 a month, it's $180 a year.
$180 a year. Okay.
Xbox Live is $60 a year if you don't get a deal on it. That's its full price.
Yeah.
And it's actually amazing that it is $60 a year because how long has it been $60 a year? Like, how many times has Netflix gone up?
I want to say it's, at least in America, I know prices fluctuate in Europe and Canada a lot. But I want to say it's always been that exact same price. I remember buying it for $59 10 years ago at a store, and it came with a little headset and some other cool little things in the package. So I think it's always kind of been that price. It's crazy that we're paying that.
But it hasn't gone up.
Considering what you're getting service-wise, the ability to chat with anybody. You can now do it on your phone.
And
you can
people
use it
in
that
other
way.
countries, people in totally different places.
Yeah, you've got this always-on connection. You can play a game anytime you want, so long as there's not server maintenance on that particular game, which is pretty much just MMOs that do that. You can play a game anytime, co-op with somebody anytime. Any of the other modes that you can think of versus all the time. So you're getting that always. Well, getting back to the Red and the Jez thing. So Red was saying it should be free for whatever reasons he's always bringing up every year that they do this. And Jez was saying, no, you can't because of just the things that he's had explained to him.
Yeah.
And those are just the basic things. He was saying server load alone is going to increase. So if you make it free, you're taking that wall down, everybody rushes in. Everybody that wasn't doing it rushes in.
Right, that's true.
Server load goes through the roof. That's going to cost money. That's going to cost an arm and a leg as it is.
Yeah.
You don't have the income now to pay for all that increase.
Right.
So that's a double-edged problem.
Yeah, that's a really ironic situation there.
Yeah, it's a never-ending loop of a problem as well. It just gets worse as time goes on. You're eliminating a revenue stream. So how do you explain that to your board of directors? How do you explain that to investors?
Yeah.
How does that work anywhere? Yeah. Like, how does that? How do you?
That's not good.
How does one person that has a YouTube and a presence on Twitter rationalize any of this to themselves and not think it through? Jez, I thought he did a great job of explaining these things. Yeah. And like he's explaining it through the filter of having somebody at Microsoft he's actually spoken to about this explain it to him.
Right.
It all makes sense. It's really black and white. It's very simple stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my standpoint on it. I agree with what he had to say. We've always said this. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's something that's a necessary thing. Again, I'm paying how much for Netflix? Necessary.
So you're paying $180 a year for Netflix versus $60 a year for Xbox.
Something
Live.
I don't get anywhere near as enjoyment out of Netflix.
And probably not as much time. And here's the funny thing is maybe in this instance, Red Dragon or whoever's complaining that Xbox Live should be free, maybe they're not using it to the extent they should be. Maybe they're doing more talking than they're doing gaming because...
There's a lot of that.
It's $5 a month.
Yeah.
You don't use $5 a month worth of the Xbox Live servers. I mean, I'm on that all the time, and I'm a busy person. I really do game a lot less than I would want to.
Yeah.
And yet I would pay so much more than that because it's like I feel like they're having to do a lot for how often I'm on there and I'm using that.
Yeah.
And they don't increase it. It's like a couple things that we've talked about with Xbox. They're not increasing the prices. Gaming in general, actually, because games are the same exact $60.
Ridiculous value. Up. Sea of Thieves, I've got over 400 hours in it. $60.
You're a Pirate Legend now, too.
That's it. Yeah, I hit that. So
400-hour Pirate Legend. Definitely utilizing Xbox Live. And PSN increased recently.
It did
in some regions.
Well, a couple years ago, it did it in America about a year and a half ago. And then in Europe, and then supposedly there's going to be one more increase in other regions that's coming at some point in time. So technically, they're paying more for it than we are here in the States. But yeah, I mean, those things are probably going to go up. And I don't think Sony's doing that because they're like, well, how much more profit can we get out of this?
No, they're probably increasing their server.
Yeah. Well, their numbers have been going up. Their subscribers are up to 33, just over 33. I want to say 33.5 million on subscribers, and their active users have gone up to. I want to say it's 80 million now, or somewhere in the 80 to 70 million. That information just came out. You should have it.
Yeah,
I think I sent it to you.
Yeah.
So they're starting to see, wow, these costs start to skyrocket.
It's exactly probably what Jez is saying. Like, more and more people get on, then it's more and more expensive to maintain the service.
Yeah. So I mean, the long and the short of it is, it would be cool
sense, but
if it was free. We would all take advantage of that.
Yeah,
the quality of it would likely go down over time as more people rush in to use it, and that would create other problems and issues as we progress. So yeah.
So all technology gets more expensive over time. It's just amazing if it doesn't really.
Yeah.
So lots of different things from a couple of different stories with regard to PlayStation. We have more PlayStation information than we usually get.
That's really good. Yeah.
So one thing was that Kodera hinted in an interview that the PS5 will be 2021 or later. Not only that, but in a similar time frame, but prior to him hinting at that, Matt Piscatella said no sooner than fall 2020.
Fall 2020, which actually falls into the fiscal of 2021.
Yeah.
So that does kind of work, and it does make sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if you're really saying at the end of 2020, the way those work is that really is, that's the end of the year, so you might as well be 2021. So it is a good, what are we off, 3 years?
We're off in another 3 years, yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense. That falls in line with things that you and I have said and predicted before.
Yeah.
Just looking at where Sony has been, where they're going. If you look at, because they do eventually, not every quarter, but they release information about their R&D, and they release information about where that is. And that's in some of this information that we saw.
Yeah.
Their R&D is increasing very little.
So they have a little bitty bump in R&D.
Which is not indicative of a hardware release on the level of a PS5.
Of researching a new PS5.
Yes.
And interestingly, that goes along with that is they also seem like they're talking about it really vaguely.
They are being super vague about everything, yeah.
Like, really vague, like where we might not be talking about
a console. Yeah, a hardware piece. Yeah.
Or, just whatever we're expecting is not what we're talking about. That kind of goes along with something else that Kodera admitted in an interview, which was that PSVR is not doing what they want to do.
PSVR and PSView is what it came out.
Both of those. Yeah. He said both of those are, he didn't exactly say failing, but just about.
Which is interesting because just a year ago, they said that they were doing great.
It was doing great. Best thing they ever did.
Both of them.
So that's a lot of R&D money into hardware.
Yeah.
That didn't go well.
It didn't pan out, necessarily. Yeah.
So that's interesting because...
So do you really want to double down, put more super expensive... we're talking $10 billion plus into the next console.
Yeah.
To have it maybe have a similar result, and you can also stretch out what you've got going on right now. They might try to see what's going to happen with the cloud space and put out the next iteration of what PlayStation is as a cloud. I do still kind of feel that they're going to do a console. I just don't know about the timing of it.
We don't know what it is exactly and
when. We haven't seen any huge bumps to their R&D beyond what they did for PSVR.
We don't see the right bump.
Yeah,
definitely.
So that means that they don't have it it hasn't been in the works.
Yeah.
The PS5 has not been in the works. The last one that we saw, the last bumps that we saw were for the PSVR and the Pro.
Yeah.
And both of those released. So it's going to be a while.
And neither of those really did the R&D totally pay off in them hitting their expectations.
Oh, we don't know on the Pro. They don't release specific numbers for that, so we don't know for sure.
Yeah, that one's a hard one to pinpoint, but definitely PSVR was not the R&D did not equal out to what the profit needed to be to make it worth their while.
No, not at all. Because they were $500 and $600 for different packages.
Yeah.
And then they were selling them for, I saw it as low as $179. So they were losing a lot there. Also, it doesn't instill confidence in your consumers if you come out with a better version of it just 1 year later.
Yeah, and then they started putting it on sale too. So coming out with a better version of it that had some of the problems alleviated and putting it on sale didn't fix it. Because Kadera is saying this after all that has still failed to put it where they want it to go.
Yeah.
So then it's really pretty bad. It's pretty dire.
And we got to say specifically, he didn't say that 100% specifically that, but that's
just that it wasn't meeting expectations.
Yes, exactly.
Was what he said. And then also in that same report, so they have announced that we're at 79 million PlayStation sold. You and I read an article. We had a little bit of a discussion about that, and we were like, isn't that a slower pace of sales than prior?
It seems like it, because it seems like almost a year ago we heard 69 and 70 million, it seems like, right about now.
Yeah.
And then so now just a year later we're at 79, so it feels like it has slowed down quite a bit.
And then we actually didn't somebody say, yes, an analyst said that we should be...
One analyst did predict that it would be at 100 million by the end of 2018.
By the end of 2018. So we're definitely way off
20
pace
million
for
right
that
now,
one.
yeah. So.
But what I was thinking was in comparison to more recent months that the growth was slower. Then we actually looked at a slide from the investment call, and it actually does say hardware sales decline.
Yeah.
R&D increase, hardware sales decline. And the R&D increase was pretty minor. The hardware sales decline is also fairly minor. It's not like it just totally fell off the shelf or anything like that.
They also said there was a cost increase, though, to produce, which is weird. Late.
They incurred extra cost.
It's weird this late in the generation. You would think that at the rate they're producing PlayStations, that their partnerships to get these chips and everything, the prices would be coming down.
Consistent and coming down.
Yeah, strange.
Do you think that has to do with the graphic cards changing?
It could be. It could be something like that. But you would think that contract or that deal would have gone through many years ago. So
yeah, they should still be in a pricing deal, but who knows?
Yeah.
Is there anything? There's one other thing from their. So they also talked about their first party games. And it was essentially an interview that Kadera was in where they asked him about first party games. And essentially, so the article was titled, Sony gives more details on boosting its first party game development pipeline. But the couple of quotes that stood out to me is, there are a few items in development as always. And then pipeline is going to be further improved and increased, so expenses are likely to increase accordingly. And then he mentioned a lot about existing IPs and making them into franchises.
Franchises and expansions is
he left us very dazed and confused as to whether he means they have lots of new IPs in development or whether he really just means there's lots of activity in that sector, but it's mostly related to their existing franchises like Horizon Zero Dawn.
Well, I think we'll know in E3 here. I think
we probably will. I hope we will. And then actually they're getting some growth in an unexpected place. Add-ons and microtransactions.
Yeah, they did say that. So that's good.
That's interesting. I mean, obviously we know that contributes to growth. We know it contributes to profit, but it's been extremely controversial.
Also makes sense with their numbers going up for subscribers and people using online.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think we can expect more of that type of thing because it is helping them grow, and anything that helps them grow.
DLC, microtransactions, whatever it is, people don't like to hear about it, but that's what's actually bringing in the money. So.
That brings in the money because there's not as much maintenance and cost associated with getting those things in place.
Yeah.
So, I have not gotten to play Detroit because I'm so obsessed with that game, the fact that game has released, that I really want to really get into that game. I gotta have the time. I can't get distracted. Yeah. So I haven't even started it. I've watched a teeny bit of gameplay, and I said I wouldn't do that, but I couldn't help myself. But I haven't really played it.
I've played it, and it's really good. I like it a lot. I like it a lot for what I thought it was going to be. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be.
So it's exactly 100% what they led us to believe.
Yes, it's 100% what I pictured playing it would be like.
Yeah.
And I almost, the first night I played it, stayed up till 5 or 6, the night that it launched, and I almost felt like I could have played it all the way through in one city. Because I got about halfway.
Happen to me.
Got about halfway through, already lost one of my characters somehow. And I thought about rewinding it, but then a little message pops up where you can read a little message in the corner that says, they really recommend you play it through all the way with what happened the first time. Then go back and do that.
Learn from your mistakes.
I decided to do that. The character didn't die, though. It was really awkward. It was weird. It's just...
That's really weird.
You didn't interact with something that you had to interact with to keep the story going. But I wanted to see what would happen if you did that. And then they're like, this character, it didn't become a deviant. You can't play with him anymore.
Your android is turned off.
Yeah, it's that you don't ever see the character again unless something else happens I don't know about yet. But, yeah, I mean, I like it a lot for what it is. It is kind of like a Telltale game, but with more realistic graphics. It is sort of that. The way the pathways branch aren't as deep as what you would maybe imagine.
Okay.
But they're actually not very different from the way the Telltale is. Like, whenever, like in the Telltale games, The Walking Dead and all that stuff that you've played.
Yeah.
It feels like you're making a big decision sometimes, but you're really not.
Yeah.
You're not really impacting the story.
It affects it a little bit, but the big events,
it feels that way to you, like it's huge.
Yeah.
But if you actually go and play the game twice, you're like, oh, okay, that's not that different.
It goes similarly each way, yeah.
And Detroit is kind of the same way, so that might be a huge letdown for some people that were expecting maybe something more drastic or more.
Yeah.
But you can greatly impact the end of the game because you have 3 characters and you can lose 2 or maybe all 3. So you can impact it in that sense quite a bit. I like it a lot, but I don't think people that weren't super into this idea are going to get into it at all.
So it doesn't have something extra that we didn't know about?
Not so far that I can tell. But I just, it doesn't seem like... I like it more than God of War. I think people that are like me are also going to like this a lot more than God of War. Mm-hmm. People like you are going to like it a lot more than that game. But, people that are pushing that single-player narrative type thing are probably going to focus more on stuff like God of War, even though they both are essentially single-player, story-driven games. You haven't heard as much of that with Detroit on that. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm so tempted to ask you how not to screw up my storyline, and I'm not going to, and I'm going to see if it happens to me, and it probably will.
Well, I'm hoping something comes back with that character, and it doesn't end up being screwed up, so we'll see what happens.
I guess we'll see. State of Decay also out.
Yes,
I did get to play a little bit of it. Yeah. It's really good so far. I really
everything
like it.
that I've experienced with it, everything that I'm seeing on my timeline, everything I'm seeing on my friends, people are addicted to this game.
Everyone's playing it. I always have double digits of friends playing it.
Well, you know how I was like playing Sea of Thieves 20 hours a day? It seems like every one of my friends is playing this game
doing that with State
20
of Decay.
hours a day on State of Decay.
Yeah.
And I've still been addicted to Sea of Thieves because, like you said, the Pirate Legend and stuff, we've been doing all that in-game stuff that comes out after you get to level 50 on everything.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to pull myself away from that. But as soon as I can pull myself away from that, I'm going to go just, head first into both of those games, Detroit and State of Decay.
And both of those you kind of have to be playing like continuously.
Yeah.
And keep it all together.
Hours and hours. You don't want to do an hour and turn it off.
You don't want to play it amidst 10 other games and just be here and there and spotty. That's how you lose characters in a game like State of Decay. But
absolutely.
Here's the thing. State of Decay, from anything I've seen and anything I've heard anybody who's actively playing it, who really is playing it, and I see them on my friends list say, I'm not seeing the things that we're hearing from like the sites and from people on podcasts.
People said to straight up just avoid the game.
There was a title of a review that said avoid because of bugs. I have not run into a bug, and I am not saying that there are not bugs. I'm sure there are. Every game now has bugs. But it's not a broken game like people try to talk about. Now, let's talk about this criticism thing, though.
Well, how much time do we have?
Because we got about 3 minutes.
That's not quite enough. So I'm going to have to keep the...
We're going to keep that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to
Can we get that in the live show?
I think it'll work in the live show, yeah.
All right.
Just to let the audience know. So I was working on a few bits that are kind of like a segment where we talk about something and deconstruct something that is... misused a lot. So one of them is constructive criticism.
Exactly.
People will throw that around.
That term and what that means.
Yeah, just to give a little taste of where this is going. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
People will bash something just outright for weeks and at a time and say, well, it's just constructive criticism.
It's all constructive criticism.
Well, that's
every word of it.
Have you looked up the definition? Like, that's not really...
Have you looked at what has to be in place for this to be
like there's multiple things that need to be executed before you can get to the point of constructive criticism. So you can't just say everything is that. Another one I'm working on is in my opinion. So people just use that for everything.
For everything.
I've actually seen people use in my opinion when they're actually talking about facts. I've seen it happen.
It's true. In my opinion, the number was 5%. Wow, that was a pretty incredible opinion.
No,
there.
you took actual credible information and then you misused, in my opinion. So
there's got to be 10 more of those.
I'm gonna
start searching for them and get you
them.
to do bits.
I've got a few others, but those are the two I had been working on most recently.
You have the potential to be really funny when these things happen.
Yeah,
so I'm going to start.
This happens. People don't ever see this on YouTube because I don't ever bring this out. Yeah. But in our Xbox Live parties, I do it all the time, and everybody's having a blast. So.
Definitely. Speaking of, shout out to Fuzzy Belvedere.
Yeah.
Who asked. Essentially, why we've scaled our presence back on YouTube or Twitter. Actually, what he said is, am I crazy or have you scaled your presence back? So no, we have lots of stuff coming. We've got the live show coming. You're going to E3, so we're not exactly sure what the setup looks like around that, but there will be coverage. You will be live.
The coverage is coming after I get back.
Right, exactly.
I really want to enjoy this as a gamer, not as like let's do videos while I'm there.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So we've got that stuff coming. We're still working on a lot of other projects. We'll put out more info about the live show.
Yes, yeah. When we get the details hammered out.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been asked, where are our predictions for E3? Because last year we did them as videos of our predictions for E3. But we're going to do that with some others in the live show. So that'll be a little bit bigger, more fun patch of predictions. So look for us there for the E3 predictions, but we will definitely do them.
Yeah.
Is that it? Are we missing something?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just we've both been kind of on the go. You've been on the go because you've got stuff moving around. You're moving a little bit. Yeah. I'm probably going to be moving here pretty soon too. So the set might change in the future. This might be the last show we do in this particular set. We'll see.
Could be.
But we'll work on all that stuff and get it hammered out.
We'll find out. So lots to come.
Too many things going on.
Too many things going on.
Working on too many things, yeah.
It's so hard to do consistent, good content anyway. Yeah. And our lives are really set up to where it's really hard.
Yeah.
But we do hope we'll get some consistency.
I got to play that Pirate Legend game, so.
You're always on Sea of Thieves. Like every time I'm like, Sea of Thieves.
That's just a joke for the people that know that I play it a lot. But there's other stuff I'm working on besides that.
A lot.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
That's pretty much it.
Nothing else. Thanks for watching.